Hello once again, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather on this 21st day of May 2022. I'm David Percy, and the first graphic up is the breakup map. Most of the interior and southern rivers have kind of run their course now, still got some watches out along the lower Yukon River, and then snowmelt advisories, flood advisories in the Tanana Valley and Copper River Basin. But up to the north, Koyukuk River now mostly open all the way down to the Tanana River. And the Kobuk River has mostly ice in the lower half of the river with some open in the upper reaches there. Noaa River, about the same thing, kind of a mixture of some open to mostly ice. And of course, no change in the North Slope rivers. The Sag River, Kaparik River, and Kovo River is all about the same. Really nothing going on there yet. And the Buckland River has some open area, just about the entire stretch there. So moving on to the hazardous weather graphic, and you'll see there's flood advisory for the Copper River Basin, northern Copper River Basin, and that's out through Monday for Moose Creek in Glen Ellen, the Gulkana River, and around Lake Louise. Still in the influence of flood advisory through Monday morning. And then there's a flood watch until Monday for the Salsha River for possible flooding there, and then a flood advisory for minor flooding for the Chena River, and that's until 10 p.m. or no, that's until Monday. And then the flood watch on the lower Yukon River there is still out until 10 p.m. this evening, and that extends from Grayling to Russian Mission. They're still waiting for the ice jam to break, and that's out until 10 p.m. this evening. And we'll see a significant rise in water levels from Russian Mission to Grayling when that ice jam releases. And from there, taking a look at satellite imagery, and we've got low pressure there angling up toward Kodiak Island with bringing some rain into the Bristol Bay area, Alaska Peninsula, and the heaviest amounts on Kodiak, but nothing too terribly heavy, about 0.4 of an inch falling in Kodiak State Airport. Akiak picked up 1/3 of an inch. A little bit heavier amounts on the upslope areas of the south side of the Aleutian Range there, as much as an inch falling in some isolated areas there, with showers back across the eastern Aleutians all the way out to the central Aleutians. Otherwise, mostly sunny and warm conditions. Southeast coast and much of interior Alaska had some mid and high level cirrus move up into the interior, but didn't really affect the temperatures much. Still rising in the 60s to mid 70s. Toledo had about 74 today, Fairbanks 73 degrees. And then down toward the Kodiak Island area, that kind of wound up low there, starting to weaken as it pulls west-northwestward toward the Alaska Peninsula. Winds gusting 35 to 45 miles an hour out of the east there for Kodiak Island, and 25 to 35 miles an hour for Bristol Bay and the Kuskokwim Delta. On the surface map, you can see the green shaded area there, indicating the precipitation field associated with that front right into Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula. A little bit of rain did get up into the King Salmon area, a couple of hundredths of an inch, and that's about it. Mostly blocked by the Aleutian Range and the easterly flow. And otherwise sunny, warm, light winds throughout much of interior Alaska. Getting a little gusty in some areas again through Turnagain Arm into West Anchorage, gusting up to 20-25 miles an hour to the east-southeast. Palmer also 70 degrees, 28 mile an hour southeast wind gusts there. Otherwise, not too bad, not much in the way of any wind in the interior there, lack of a gradient at all. Same thing for the southeast coast. A few flurries and low clouds, fog for the eastern Arctic coastal areas, and showers over the Aleutians and the southern Bering Sea. For tonight, look for some shower activity for the Pribilofs. A little breezy over the west central Aleutians. that gradient possibly supporting northerly wind gusts to 30 miles an hour. And less than that, though, with showers for the AKwx area and the Alaska Peninsula, southeast, maybe 15 to 25 mile an hour winds there from about Cold Bay up to Pilot Point. Otherwise, Kodiak Island, rain becoming a lot more intermittent, winds definitely dying down as that low center weakens and kind of breaks away. The one center pulls back toward the Alaska Peninsula. The new center there, 1,005 millibars, stays far enough away not to really affect the area, but begins to make a push in toward the southeast coast, as we'll see for tomorrow. Looks like increasing clouds late tonight and then rain spreading in across Prince of Wales Island from, south of Sitka, Port Alexander, on down across Prince of Wales Island, possibly getting into Ketchikan, Metlakatla areas, definitely into Dixon Entrance and the Queen Charlotte Islands. Otherwise, just an increase in the clouds over the central southeast coast, mostly sunny from Juneau up to Skagway, Haines, North Gulf Coast, interior Alaska, mostly sunny and warm once again, 60s to mid-70s, and maybe a few more clouds on the north slope there, low clouds, fog, still some flurry possibilities there for the eastern Arctic coastal zones. And then looking ahead to Monday, light winds, not much change, big change over southern Alaska, especially the southeast interior and the Panhandle, looking for a much better chance of rain and showers across all the southeast coast, North Gulf Coast into Prince William Sound, and the Copper River Basin looking more cloudy with cooler temperatures and a better chance for showers. Risk of some afternoon showers along the western Alaska Range, but the heaviest moisture will be off to the east there. Otherwise, north of the Alaska Range and west of the Alaska Range, still a lot of sunshine and temperatures on the warm side. Bering Sea under the domination of high pressure, so winds will be light. Low clouds, fog will tend to increase out over that way with pretty good areas of IFR to go along with it. Lows for tonight, 20s, North Slope Arctic Coast, south of the Brooks Range in the 30s and 40s. Actually lower or in the 40s, mid to upper for the eastern upper Tanana Valley, but Eagle dropping down to 37, about the same in the valleys of the Copper River Basin. Otherwise, 45 to 50 southwest interior, and highs tomorrow, 65 to 75 interior Alaska, and 65 to 72 for the Susitna Valley. A little cooler in the Kenai Peninsula there, and upper 60s, mid to upper 60s Copper River Basin, in the 60s for the Panhandle, near 50 Kodiak Island, Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, Pribilofs, all in the 40s, upper 30s St. Lawrence Island, and highs mid-20s to mid-30s for the Arctic Coast and North Slope. Those temperatures fall down into the upper teens and 20s the following morning, Monday morning. Otherwise, lows mid-30s to mid-40s over the interior, all the way down to the North Gulf Coast, mid-40s Kodiak Island, lower 40s for the Panhandle. Cooler for the southeast coast with more clouds and rain moving in, so highs in the 50s, and actually cooler over much of interior Alaska as well in the 60s. Still could reach 65 in the Susitna Valley, mid to upper 60s over the southwest interior, upper 20s to near 30 along the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on, first line weather graphic for Sunday morning. Marginal VFR Arctic coast right down across the north slope, across the Brooks Range and into the northern Koyukuk, and then most of the Kobuk Valley, Noatak Valley, northwest coast, northern Seward Peninsula, and some of that marginal VFR slipping down into Norton Bay. IFR from Wales down to the north shore of St. Lawrence Island. VFR to the south, marginal VFR Kuskokwim Bay to Nunivak Island. IFR from the Pribilofs down to the central eastern Aleutians. And the south side of the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, still in the thick of the IFR, and that extends eastward, right, almost to the, it does extend to the southern coast of the Panhandle, and actually possibly into Metlakatla and Dixon Entrance, but the southeast coast looking pretty good over the inside waters, southern two-thirds of the state, VFR. And then for the afternoon, some scattered IFR, Brooks Range, North Slope, and improving, though, for the Arctic coast, as well as along the northwest coast. Just some lingering marginal VFR. Kotzebue back into VFR in the afternoon, and the interior looking really good, VFR. Areas of IFR, northern Bering Sea into the Chukchi Sea, but the Bering Sea Mostly IFR, the Aleutians all IFR, south side of the Alaska Peninsula. Kodiak Island improving to VFR flying conditions for Fognak Island and into the central part of the island. But looks like Chiniak Marmot Bay on southward, marginal VFR and still some possible IFR for Akiak and Sitkinak. And lowest conditions right along the southern southeast coastal areas, and again into Dixon Entrance. And then for the AM hours, marginal VFR all of the southeast coast and the eastern North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, Shelikof Strait, northern Bristol Bay, northward to the Brooks Range, good VFR again, and some areas of marginal VFR and scattered IFR from the western Arctic coast down across the western Brooks Range and the northwest interior northern Seward Peninsula. Aleutians improved to marginal VFR, including the Pribilofs and the Alaska Peninsula. And for the afternoon, not much change out there. A little bit of IFR slips into Shimiana too. IFR on the eastern side of Kodiak Island, Fognak Island, and now a push of marginal VFR up into the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, right into the Coast Range actually, Passage Canal, and pushing into Turning Arm, probably to Girdwood, and maybe as far west as possibly Bird Point or so. Otherwise, Cook Inlet, VFR, Western Kenai Peninsula, all of interior Alaska, including the Arctic coast, VFR. Anatuvik, marginal VFR, same forecast for Adigan for Sunday. And Lake Clark and Merrill, another VFR day coming up there. Rainy, same forecast, good VFR for windy. Isabel, VFR. Mintesta, VFR. Tanita, VFR also, and Portage looking good, at least for another day. VFR flying on either entrance. Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 to 6,000 feet there over the northern interior at the surface just south of the Brooks Range and then into the northern Bering Sea across St. Lawrence Island. Kind of warm air aloft lined up with the ridge axis aloft, 8,000 feet there over southern Alaska, central Alaska Panhandle, 4,000 feet over the Alaska Peninsula. And icing, we've got a band with that frontal boundary from Kodiak Island, and then the front pushing into the south coast of the Panhandle brings an elevated threat of some isolated moderate rime icing, Prince of Wales Island, Mount Edgecombe, maybe as far north as Sitka, and possible mixed icing, Fox Islands into the central Aleutians. And from there, jet stream, cold upper low over Mackenzie Bay there, so we got northerlies aloft, turn northwest to westerly there, just along the upper Yukon River into Canada. And then easterlies, 70 knots across Kodiak Island, up to 85 knots there just west of the Pribilof Islands. 9,000 feet, 35 to 40 knot easterlies across Kodiak Island, up to 55 knots there in the southern Bering Sea on the north side of that low near Atka Island. And at 3,000 feet, even stronger winds, 40 to 55 knots from the east and northeast there, coming around that low, but let's see, east at 40 knots, Fognak Island and the Gulf of Alaska, and across Dixon Entrance. Turbulence, light to isolated moderate chop, Prince of Wales Island, Kodiak Island, Kenai Peninsula, Alaska, or Brooks Range.
Dual polarization technology is a major upgrade to the current radar system. It allows forecasters a better idea of what's actually out there and can help keep you safe.
Current radar technology transmits and receives information in the horizontal direction, which is very limited. Dual polarization technology, in addition to the horizontal, transmits and receives vertical energy, which allows forecasters to get information about the size, shape, and phase of the precipitation. We can use that information to better determine the precipitation type to expect at your given location.
There you have it. This new technology is currently being installed in radars across the country and is already being used by National Weather Service forecasters to produce better, more accurate forecasts. Learn more here and follow us. Want to know about the future of weather radar? Well, the National Severe Storms Lab has it here with its new phased array radar. Let's check it out.
It's a non-moving radar. It has 4 faces of the antenna, each pointing in different directions. One of the big advantages is that we're seeing so far, it can sample the area around the radar in less than a minute, maybe even a half a minute. And this is 5-6 times faster than what they can do today.
NSSL is leading the development of future weather radar with this project. Learn more here and follow us. The Storm Prediction Center is one of the NOAA weather partners. They are located in the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. Greg Carbon gives us a glimpse into what the SPC does.
Our mission is to analyze and forecast severe thunderstorms and the potential for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds from those thunderstorms across the lower 48 states, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. One of the primary missions of the Storm Prediction Center is the issuance of severe thunderstorm and tornado watches across the country when conditions appear to be coming together to support the development of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes.
The world-class meteorologists in the Storm Prediction Center specialize in severe weather and keeping you safe. Learn more here and follow us.
The National Severe Storms Lab is working on increasing the lead time for severe weather warnings. The national average for tornado warnings is currently 13 minutes, but more notice would be helpful, especially for those in charge of moving large groups to shelter. Warn on Forecast will help forecasters issue hazardous weather warnings earlier. The project will give them more info about the chances of strong winds, large hail, and even tornadoes.
Currently, warnings are created by forecasters looking at the atmosphere outside, understanding its volatility, and then comparing that to how they see the Doppler radar presenting what's going on inside thunderstorms. Warn on Forecast is an idea where we're going to take the massive amounts of satellite, radar, and surface data and stick them all into a very high resolution prediction model. And then by producing new forecasts every 15 or 20 minutes, the forecasters hopefully will be able to use that model to produce warnings that extend out to an hour.
Before the National Weather Service can use this tool, it must be developed and tested. One big challenge will be deciding how to get the model predictions to the forecasters.
I'm going to keep this one very low. I'm just adjusting the track.
These hazardous weather prediction models are going to produce a huge amount of output. And this fire hose of data is just too much for forecasters to handle in real time quickly. So in order to help deal with that, NSSL has developed a related project called Facets. And Facets is the methodology which will enable forecasters to focus very quickly on the most important threats.
Once Warn on Forecast and Facets are proven to be reliable and effective, then forecasters will be better able to inform you of threats nearby. Learn more here and follow us.
The Hazardous Weather Test Bed is located at the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. It is used for experiments that will allow forecasters to learn and apply new technologies.
The Hazardous Weather Test Bed is a really unique space throughout all of NOAA. And this is where the researchers and the operational folks come together in a common space to solve operational problems and to test new research tools that the research community is working on. The goal is to accelerate the transfer from research to operations of the newest tools and techniques.
People come from around the world to collaborate on this unique project.
We can bring together not only NOAA people, but also university people, faculty, researchers, private sector meteorologists, folks working in other countries in meteorology, forecasters can all come together and focus on what the problem of the day is with the forecasters.
Each spring, several experiments occur in the hazardous weather test bed. Learn more here and follow us.
What are you looking at? And what are you ignoring? Did you notice the NOAA logo in the corner? Forecasters have a lot of information in front of them too. Every second counts during severe weather, and decisions about where to focus are constantly being made. This could be even more challenging in the future. Phased array radar will produce 4 to 6 times more information than what we have now, which brings us to the question researchers are hoping to answer. Will more radar information affect forecasters' decisions?
From our past experiments, we've learned a lot about how forecasters think during the warning decision process, but we've also learned that those thought processes are very complex, and for that reason, we need a better way to be able to track forecasters' cognitive activity.
Inbounds and possibly golf ball sized hail.
An eye tracker is a piece of technology that is used to determine in real time where someone's eye gaze is located. And these eye trackers are typically video-based, which means a camera sits below a computer monitor, and with infrared light and vector analysis, we can determine where a person is looking and how their eyes are moving.
Eye tracking is already being used in the medical field and air traffic control. Using similar research methods, NSSL is discovering the benefit for weather forecasting too. Phased array radar will give forecasters a lot more to think about. Understanding their decision-making process will help researchers develop even more user-friendly tools. So what's the benefit for you? Even better weather warnings. To learn more, check us out online and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Marine forecasts, south winds 20 knots for the south coast of the Panhandle there, with seas just under 10 feet. For the north coast, southeast winds at 20 knots and southeast at 10 knots. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Stevens Passage, seas 2 feet. And Clarence Strait for Sunday, looking at a southeast wind at 15 knots with 3-foot seas. And for Monday, south to southeast winds at 15 knots for the central and northern inner channels. Otherwise, Clarence Strait, southeast at 10 knots. Light winds out along the coast, south coast west at just 10 knots, and south to southwest 10 to 15 knots for the north coast. Prince William Sound, north winds 10 knots, seas 2 feet, and small craft advisories for the north Gulf Coast. Northeast winds up to 25 knots, seas around 10 feet. Small craft advisories also for the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay for northeast winds at 25 to 30 knots, and Cook Inlet north to northeasterlies tomorrow at 20 knots with 4 to 6 foot seas. And on Monday, southeast 15 for northern Cook Inlet, southwest 15 south of the Forelands, and for the Kamishak Bay, winds will be southeast 20 knots and east to 20 for the Barren Islands and western North Gulf Coast. Eastern North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, easterlies 10 to 15 knots with 2 to 6 foot seas. And for Kodiak Island, small craft advisories, northeast winds 25 to 30 knots, seas at 10 feet. Alaska Peninsula, southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, east winds 20 knots for Bristol Bay. And for Monday, Kodiak Island, on the east side, lighter winds out of the east at 15 knots, seas at about 7 feet. Small craft advisories of Shelikof Strait, winds northeast 25 knots. And for the Alaska Peninsula, variable winds at 10 to 15 knots with 2 to 6 foot seas, and west winds of 15 knots for Bristol Bay. And for Unalaska Island, variable to southeast winds at 20 knots. Unimak Island, variable to east winds of 10 to 15 knots. Adakanatka, northerly winds 15 to 20 knots, and then small craft advisories from Amchitka Island to Shemya for north winds at 25 knots. And for the day Monday, winds northeast 25 knots, Shemya to Kiska, 20 knot northeast winds from Amchitka Island and Adak and Atka. Winds will be northeast 15 to 20 knots. And for the eastern Aleutians, east to northeast winds 15 to 20 knots with 4 to 6 foot seas. And for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, southern Nunivak Island, small craft advisories east winds 25 knots. St. Matthew Island, northeast winds 25 knots. And the Pribilofs, northeast winds at 20 knots. Yukon Delta Coast, winds will be east at 20. And St. Lawrence Island looking at northeast winds at 20 knots and just a breeze out of the northeast at 10 knots for Norton Sound. And for Monday, north winds 15 knots for Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island, seas about 3 feet. And for the southwest coast, northwest winds at 15 knots with 3-foot seas, northeast at 15 for the Pribilofs with seas around 4 feet. And St. Matthew Island, northern Bering Sea, light variable winds at 10 knots, seas 4 feet. And for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast for Sunday, east and northeast winds at 15 knots, brisk wind advisories for the western Arctic coast, all the way down to Cape Thompson for east to northeast winds at 25 knots. Cape Thompson to Wales, winds will be northeast at 15. And looking ahead to Monday, from Wales to Cape Thompson, light northwest breeze at 10 knots. Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, northerlies at 20 knots. Brisk wind advisories for the western Arctic coast for east winds at 25 knots. Otherwise, the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coasts, winds will be east at 15 knots. For tonight, look for some low clouds, fog, and maybe some flurries, especially on the eastern Arctic coast. But amounts will be light and winds are on the light side, maybe a little gusty through the passes of the western Brooks Range along mountain areas. But interior Alaska, variably cloudy to mostly clear with light winds and mild overnight temperatures. Mostly clear and dry for the Panhandle with light winds. Chance of rain for Kodiak Island. Showers for the Alaska Peninsula and Pribilofs and the central Aleutians. And for tomorrow, sunny and warm. Interior Alaska, increasing clouds, chance of rain, Prince of Wales Island into Dixon Entrance, and still a chance of some moisture for Kodiak Island. Unsettled for the Aleutians, and still a risk of some flurries for the eastern Arctic coast. And for Monday, more cooler, cloudier, and a better chance of showers over southern Alaska and the Panhandle. Interior areas north of the Alaska Range, sunny and warm once again all the way to the Arctic coast.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.